Hey traders, this is Taylor with Top Pick Trading. I want to give you guys another review today. It's a big downhill day, so I figured it'd be a good day to review so you can kind of learn a little bit more about strong trends. So you can see we had a big leg down through the overnight, flattened out into this big spike in channel, and then we hit this stronger downtrend towards the end of the day, overshot this channel, but just kept going with how strong it was. So, and you can see here, if you measured this move, this orange line here, to the break and new low from the initial channel, and then after the end of the correction, you put your second leg there. We hit this thing literally to the tick perfectly right here. Anyway, something to note if you're looking for larger targets. So let's get started on the review. All right, so like I said, we had this downtrend starting the day. 7 o'clock came, or 8 o'clock came right in here. You would have been able to draw these first three swings here. We had the stronger downtrend with a break and a couple legs down. We had this correction that pushed through the EMA pretty strongly. Zoom in a little more for you. Strong push up here. We get a failed second entry long right at that entry point, but this trend was pretty strong here. I didn't have a break a new high from it yet, so I didn't want to short just yet above the EMA anyway. Then we push down through the EMA pretty strongly, and then we get this second entry right at that entry point. Still, I'm a little concerned about this trend wanting to retest because it is pretty strong, but it is right at that key entry point on a second entry short, so you may want to risk that one a little bit more aggressive. In my opinion, the better trade is to wait until we push back through that EMA and we get this really nice lower high setup here. Right off the key entry point again, really good bar. Setup bar is great too. And we have the EMA at our backs rather than trading into it like this one. So that's a great trade right there in my opinion. We push down lower. We just get a first entry here, kind of a doji. It looks like maybe a visual second entry short, but if I'm going to take that, I really want a stronger bar here. Chop lower. We get a close outside this big channel here. Several moves down. No good bars through here, and if they are, they're kind of far from the EMA and congested like this one. Bottoms out here. We push up higher, get this strong micro uptrend with a break, and now we've got a second entry long right here, but it's been so downhill, and a lot of times you'll get multiple legs to a new low. This will just be the first leg from this big downtrend, so a lot of times you'll get several legs down. Then we get this lower high. Unfortunately, the setup bar is the wrong color. It's just so bearish. If this was a range day, then I think this trade's pretty good here, but I hate how bearish the day is. I'm not going to mark that one. But if the context wasn't so bearish, then just remember this. Still would want that signal setup bar a little bit more bearish too. So it pushes strongly higher. We get the third touch of this big trend line here, the spiking channel. This move right here is really strong, so I don't think you want to short that just yet. It made a new high, so you maybe want to wait on a lower high if you're going to take that chance, but we don't really get it. Then we get this failed second entry long. It's a bit congested. I marked it orange, which means probably a little bit too aggressive. Also at the time, you wouldn't have this blue spiking channel. It would look like this right here with a break a new low already. So you're shorting really low, so I don't think you can take that trade. I just marked it for context purposes if you saw this big spiking channel. Pushes lower, get a break a new low, pushes back higher. No retest on this uptrend here. Just shoots right through the EMA and keeps going, and notice where it bounced again right at that key entry point. Just strongly lower. We get a close outside a new low from this red downtrend here. To be honest, I'm not so sold on this green downtrend, this bigger one here. It looks okay. You get three touches. The bottom fits pretty well, so it may be valid. There's just a lot of empty space up here. But regardless of that, it's a very bearish day, and if you treat this as a double bottom, this is a really strong bar for a second entry short. It's also a triple test. I think that's the biggest justification here. You try to go higher once here, twice, a couple more times that didn't quite make it back, and then here's the third touch of that area. Really strong bar close to the EMA, so I like that trade. Get a lower high here, but it's so bearish it'll probably work, but it's right into that low. Huge risk bar too, 12 ticks. A bit congested too, so I think maybe you want to lay off that one. Pushes lower. We get a close outside this green channel here, and we try to go and retest that the high of this little micro trend, but we get a really strong bearish bar for yet another second entry short. And notice it's testing the underside of this previous support acting as resistance now. So with that strong of a bar, closing through the EMA like that, I think that's a great trade too. Almost probably red. I think I'm going to change that one to red. I think that's good enough to definitely take that trade. Chop higher after a couple legs up here. We turn at this main area of resistance. We get a lower high here, just a bit congested in the middle of that EMA again. Just push strongly below the EMA and then turned right here and a little bit better bar. You probably want to take that one too, but didn't happen. Push strongly lower, you get a close outside new low, just chop sideways. This is kind of just messy chop here at the bottom. Most of the downtrends have played out except for the big context that play in. Notice we're bouncing 3 times now on the lower side of this, so you probably just want to wait for something to come back up here, or at least to the midline. We really don't get much through here. A lot of good bars that can trap you, like this one here. You might have gotten out of that, but context just not great through this area. So finally we bounce at that support and at the lower area of the trend line. Strongly push higher, bounce sideways, get a new high from that. Notice where we turn, right at that key entry point again. We get a new high here. First entry, second entry. Unfortunately, this kind of a steep drop. It doesn't really form right at the trend line. There's some room there. Bar's not great. It's a little bit congested, so I don't think you can take that. So you get this sort of like a second entry right here if you don't count this as one, but still so sideways and closing pretty low, so I don't think you can take that. Same thing here, still congested. It's a shame because the context is pretty good here, since now we're aligning at these range highs and also at the key entry point out in this area. We chop lower. Strong push here, just so far from the EMA. We get this strong push up, and we get a, if you count this as a double bottom, because there's not really much of a leg there, we get a second entry short, but right out of that EMA and that support area right here. So I think you probably want to wait on that one. You may retest this high right here, or this uptrend, I should say. Then we get a failed second entry long. Same thing, right out of that EMA, there's some wick there, right out of that support. I think you want to wait on that one. So at that point, this kind of looks like a double top. So you get a first entry, second entry long that fails. I probably wouldn't take this on the close, but if you took the engulfing, it's still kind of into the low of the move, so not the best setup, but coming right off this key entry point, and it's so bearish. And now we're testing this support from the underside. So if you took that on the engulfing bar, I think it's a pretty good trade. A little more iffy if you waited for the close. Pushes lower. We just get a first entry here. Another first entry. Chops lower. Which starts getting pretty strong through here. Then chops sideways. Just a first entry, or really a second entry here, but the bar's not all that great. Got a good bar here. Maybe you consider that a second entry short, and almost like a test of this resistance, and almost like a little failed breakout from this tight congestion. But fortunately, bar doesn't form all that great, so pushes lower, chops sideways, pushes down to the lower side of the blue channel. And notice at this point we overshot the big channel, but with the way that EMA is holding in this trend here, I wouldn't worry too much about the overshoot at this point because this channel is still in play. So anyway, we get 2 broad legs back up here. Second entry short. So an inside bar, which makes it a little riskier, but the day's so bearish. It's pretty much right at the key entry point. Maybe a little close outside there. Honestly, the other concern is that this is like 9 minutes after 3:30, but with how bearish it is, the context, I'll be honest, I like this trade. Pushes pretty far, bounces at this little higher low area, chops sideways. And then you definitely don't want to be taking trades now. It's 10 till close. But I marked these orange for context reasons. If this wasn't so late, I think some of these are good trades. Unfortunately, they're all, the last couple minutes before the close. But I just wanted to explain them in case this, it's a good example for if this occurs at a different time of the day and not the last couple minutes. So I'll go over them. So here you see we got a first entry, second entry short, a little bit congested, but forming right at this key entry point. It's also a triple test. You want to try to go higher here, and then here again. Great little bar right at that EMA in this smaller secondary channel. So good trade if it wasn't the time of day that it was. Pushes lower, and here we get another second entry short right at that key entry point again. Little bar. This one's pretty low into the close, but This was earlier in the day. Maybe you take a chance on that one. A bit sideways too, so maybe not. That one's more on the aggressive side. Pushes lower, and then yet again we got another second entry short here. Testing this resistant support acting as resistance perfectly. See, it's also the first close outside this orange channel, and we've got some room to that measure move, so that would have worked nicely, but it's actually after the close even, so no way. But you can see we push lower right to that measure move. So very bearish day. Fortunately, not that many setups in this steeper down move here. Still some pretty good trades, but I want to show you guys the other chart that I watched, the secondary chart. Show you where there's some other setups occurred. All right, here's the other chart. You can see that setup looked slightly better. This one's about the same. On this chart, I actually did mark this higher low here. Still so bearish, still pretty aggressive, but we got a nice setup bar on this trade. So maybe still too aggressive with the context overall, but locally looks a lot better than on the other chart. This looked pretty similar through here. This trade here, it is sideways, but this trade looks a lot better on this chart. Pretty much a triple test of this resistance area. It's technically not a second entry short, but it's a lower high. And at the time, you may have had this just a little bit steeper. It looks like it may fit on this chart a little better. Ended up being a little bit wider, kind of traveled on us. That's a decent looking trade on this chart. And then you get another lower high. Pushes lower. Not too many other setups. This one looked about the same right here, but obviously too late. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that lesson. Great day to take notes on. We don't see these that often, but when you do see them, you need to be ready to go short. So thank you guys for watching, and y'all have a good one.